Acura's all-new ADX, a compact SUV that isn't just built for one thing, it's precision crafted for everything. To escape the grind with available all-wheel drive. To go with your flow with available Google built-in.
Hey Google, turn it up.
Okay, turning up the volume. And crafted to be heard with an available Bang & Olufsen premium sound system. The all-new Acura ADX, crafted to match your energy. Acura, precision crafted performance.
Take your vibes and go.
Google is a trademark of Google LLC.
Shopping is hard, right? But there's a better way. Stitch Fix online personal styling makes it easy. I just give my stylist my size, style, and budget preferences. I order boxes when I want and how I want. No subscription required. And she sends just for me pieces, plus outfit recommendations and styling tips. I keep what I love and send back the rest. It's so easy. Personal styling for everyone. Get started today at stitchfix.com/Spotify. That's stitchfix.com/Spotify.
The Tudors Dynasty Podcast.
Hello, and welcome back to the Tudors Dynasty and beyond. This is Dr. Emma, filling in for your regular host, Rebecca. Dido Elizabeth Belle and Sophia Duleep Singh were two extraordinary women with royal heritage who navigated complex histories. Dido, born to a Sikh prince and an enslaved African woman, grew up in England under the guardianship of Lord Mansfield, where she became a symbol of race and freedom. Sophia was a daughter of Maharaja Duleep Singh, and she was a strong advocate for women's and Indian rights. She fought for women's suffragette in Britain and voting rights for women in India, using her royal status to challenge societal norms. Both women fought for justice and equality in their respective worlds. Dido Elizabeth Belle, born in the early 1760s, came into the world under extraordinary and complex circumstances. She was the daughter of Captain John Lindsay of the Royal Navy and Maria Bell, an African woman enslaved in the West Indies. Their paths crossed when Lindsay's ship captured a Spanish vessel in the Caribbean, and Maria Bell was amongst those on board. While the details of their relationship remain unclear, it's believed Lindsay entered a union with Maria under the custom of plaçage, an informal arrangement between European men and women of African descent. As a child, Dido spent time with her father in Spanish-controlled Pensacola, Florida, during his naval posting there in the mid-1760s. But her story would soon shift to a far different setting, England. Lindsay brought her back to London and entrusted her care to his uncle, William Murray, the first Earl of Mansfield, and his wife. The Murrays, who were already raising their great-niece Elizabeth, welcomed Dido into their household at Kenwood House. Though her exact role in the family remains a topic of historical debate, she was more than a servant. She was educated, baptized at St. George's Church in Bloomsbury in 1766, and grew up in close companionship with Elizabeth Murray. Dido's presence in such a household, black, illegitimate, and yet raised in aristocratic society, was both exceptional and quietly revolutionary for her time. Though Dido was not their biological child, the Mansfield family treated her with marked generosity and affection. She received a personal allowance, fine clothing, and thoughtful gifts, luxuries that reflected both her unique position and the family's regard for her. Unlike many in her position, Dido was not hidden away. She lived openly with the aristocratic household, a presence that raised eyebrows in society and stirred questions about property and race. A presence, in fact, sparked debate about whether her great-uncle, Lord Mansfield, the Lord Chief Justice of England and Wales, could remain impartial in legal matters involving slavery. That concern came to a head during one of the most significant legal decisions of the 18th century, Somerset versus Stuart. The case centered on James Somerset, an enslaved African man bought by Charles Stuart, a customs officer in Massachusetts. When Stuart brought Somerset to England in 1769, Somerset seized the opportunity to escape 2 years later. Upon his recapture, Stuart ordered him imprisoned on the ship Anne and Mary with the intention of selling him in Jamaica. However, Somerset's godparents intervened, petitioned for a writ of habeas corpus, and sparking a landmark trial. Presiding over the case, Lord Mansfield ruled in Somerset's favour, declaring that slavery had no basis in English common law and that Somerset must be set free. It was a historic judgment that shifted the legal landscape, and one that continues to raise questions about how personal ties and moral conviction might shape justice. In the wake of the anti-Catholic Gordon riots of 1780, which left their Bloomsbury Square home damaged, the Murray family relocated to Kenwood House in Hampstead Heath. There, Dido took on new responsibilities, managing the estate's dairy and poultry yards while also serving as Lord Mansfield's assistant. Her presence at Kenwood often surprised visitors. When former Massachusetts Governor Thomas Hutchinson dined with the family in 1779, he was taken aback to see Dido sharing coffee with them after dinner, a sign of her unique place within the household. Her bond with Lady Elizabeth was particularly striking, so much so that their closeness was immortalized in a double portrait by Johann Sofani in the late 1770s. Another guest, Scottish poet and philosopher James Beattie, was equally impressed by Dido's intelligence and refinement. Writing in Elements of Moral Science, published in 1807, he marveled at her eloquence, recalling how she spoke with the grace of a native Englishwoman and recited poetry with a sophistication that would have impressed any child of her age. When John Lindsay died in 1788, he surprisingly left no inheritance to Dido, instead dividing his estate between two other illegitimate children. Perhaps he trusted that the Mansfield family would continue to provide for her, and indeed they did. Upon his death in 1793, Lord Mansfield left Dido a generous legacy, a lump sum of £500 and an annual income of £100. Most significantly, he also ensured her legal freedom by confirming it in his will. Later that same year, on December 5th, Dido married John Davenier at St. George Church on Hanover Square. Though details about Davenier are limited, he is believed to have been a Frenchman employed as a steward for a wealthy family in Mayfair, a prestigious position involving the management of the household's entire estate. Together, Dido and John had at least 3 sons, twins Charles and John, baptized in 1795, and another son, William Thomas, baptized in 1802. Dido Elizabeth Bell passed away in 1804 at the age of 46 and was buried at St. George's Fields near Westminster Abbey. Tragically, the final resting place was lost to history when the burial ground was cleared in the late 1960s to make way for new housing. The remains found were placed in a wooden box and sent to a crematorium, but due to improper handling, some were left behind, later discovered scattered in the area. While some researchers speculate that a portion of the site may have remained untouched, there is no definite proof that Dido's grave still exists. 72 years later, in 1876, Sophia Duleep Singh was born in London as the daughter of Maharaja Duleep Singh, the last ruler of the Sikh Empire, and Bamba Mula, who had German and Ethiopian ancestry. From an early age, she lived a life of privilege. By the time she was 4, she had her siblings Victor, Frederick, Bamba, and Catherine, with Albert arriving later. They were growing up in the grand surroundings of Elvedon Hall, family's estate in Suffolk. The household was run with the help of 19 domestic staff, including valets and lady maids, a testament to the aristocratic status of her family. Her father's relationship with the British monarchy was complex. At the age of 11, he was stripped of his Sikh empire and exiled to England by the British. Despite this traumatic loss, he formed a close friendship with Queen Victoria during their youth. Throughout their time in England, the family was kept under the watchful eye of the Indian Office. After the breakdown of her parents' marriage, Sophia's mother passed away in 1887. Duleep Singh spent the remaining years of his life in Paris, relentlessly campaigning to regain his throne in Lahore, until his death in 1893. Following his passing, the children came under the guardianship of Arthur Craigie Oliphant, and Sophia was sent to a small girls' school in Brighton. After the death of their parents, Sophia, along with her sisters Bamba and Catherine, were provided for by Queen Victoria, who granted them Faraday House on the Hampton Court estate in 1897, along with a £200 annual allowance. The sisters moved into a home at the heart of the British establishment, with neighbours who had played roles in suppressing the Indian Mutiny. While Sophia was somewhat shielded from the empire's complexities, her siblings held a deep mistrust of the British. Life at Faraday House was more restrictive than their previous home at Elvedon Hall, with tensions arising over requests for modern amenities like electric lights in separate bathrooms. Sophia developed a love for gardening, music, and animals, and often protested any changes that might harm the property. Catherine eventually moved to Germany to live with her governess, Lena Schaffer, while Bamba married Dr. David Sutherland and relocated to Lahore. The Duleep Singh siblings made several trips to India due to the political implications of their father's exile. Sophia's 1907 visit was particularly eye-opening for her. During this trip, she encountered the harsh realities of British colonial rule and witnessed extreme poverty. She listened to nationalist leaders such as Gopal Krishna Gokhale and Lala Lajpat Rai, gaining a deep understanding of what their father had lost. This new perspective led Sophia to become more critical of British rule, which fueled her involvement in the growing women's suffragette movement upon her return. Sophia embraced the idea of a new woman, taking up smoking and cycling while becoming a strong advocate for women's rights. She joined the Women's Social and Political Union, WSPU, which sought to gain women the vote through any means necessary. Sophia was also a member of the Women's Tax Resistance League, arguing that taxation without representation was unjust, and she was tried several times for refusing to pay taxes. Like Sophia, her sister Catherine supported the less militant National Union of Women's Suffragette Societies. The suffragette movement of the time was mainly led by white women and focused on securing voting rights for British women, often celebrating the British Empire, as seen in events like the 1911 Empire Pageant. Despite their movement's emphasis on British women, Sophia and Catherine stand out as two of the few women of color involved, their elevated societal status making their participation in stories known today. On 18 November 1910, a pivotal event known as Black Friday marked a significant moment for the suffragette movement. Frustrated by repeated setbacks, numerous women, including Sophia, marched on Parliament. When the protesters refused to disperse, violent clashes broke out between the police and suffragettes, resulting in physical, verbal, and sexual assaults. Sophia was directly involved in the protests and witnessed the brutality. She recorded the badge number of one officer after seeing him push a poor, exhausted lady to the ground, describing the officer's actions as unnecessary and brutally rough. The police responded, claiming that the women themselves had used physical force and argued that any force used against them was justified. Given Sophia's prominent status, both she and the police were aware of the potential media attention, and the authorities were keen to avoid any additional controversy. The Home Office report complied from that day includes her complaint, but focuses solely on her account of the violence during Black Friday. Sophia actively participated in suffragette activities, frequently attending meetings and selling suffragette literature. She used her privileged status to make a public stand, selling copies of the Suffragette newspaper at Hampton Court and encouraging others in the Kingston branch to do the same. In 1911, the Women's Freedom League organized a mass census boycott as a peaceful form of protest to draw attention to their cause. Many women avoided filling out the census, arguing that if they were denied democratic rights, it should not be counted. Determined to make a statement, Sophia boldly wrote across the census form in vivid blue ink, in large bold letters, "No vote, no census. As women do not count, they refuse to be counted. I have a conscientious objection to filling in this form." When World War I began in 1914, Sophia and other suffragettes redirected efforts to support the war, halting militant activities. She volunteered as a nurse with the Voluntary Aid Detachment and later worked to raise morale among Indian soldiers, serving as honorary secretary for the Indian Day Fund. In 1918, she advocated for Indian women's rights to vote, and in 1919, she joined a deputation to the Indian Office. While British women gained the vote in 1918, Indian women's right to vote progressed more slowly, with some provincial rights granted in 1921. During World War II, Sophia and Catherine moved to Colehatch House in Buckinghamshire for safety, with Sophia taken in evacuees, including 3 children from West London. Catherine helped at least a dozen Jewish Germans escape Nazi persecution, offering them refuge in their home. In 1939, register reflects their busy household, where these individuals were employed by Sophia, and many were later exempted from the internment and released by December 1940. Sophia and Catherine lived in Penn for the remainder of their lives. In the 1940s, Sophia remained committed to women's rights, serving as the honorary treasurer for the Mrs. Pankhurst Statue Plant Fund appeal to preserve the monument. Sophia passed away on 22nd August 1948 at the age of 71, a year after Indian independence, the partition of India, and the granting of voting rights to all Indian adults. Throughout her life, she leveraged her unique position to advocate for others and make a lasting impact. Dido Elizabeth Belle and Sophia Duleep Singh each carved out their own paths in history, breaking barriers and challenging the societal constraints of their time. Despite the different eras and circumstances they faced, both women leveraged their unique positions of privilege to advocate for justice. Dido through her quiet defiance of racial prejudice, and Sophia through her active role in the suffragette movement and her advocacy for Indian women's rights. Their legacies remind us of the power of resilience, the importance of using one's voice, and the enduring impact of standing up for equality, regardless of the odds.
And that concludes another episode of the Tudors Dynasty podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you love the show and would like to show your support, consider becoming a patron over on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Tudors Dynasty. Over there, you'll get commercial-free episodes, early access, and some patron-exclusive content as well. If you would prefer to show your support in another way, head on over to my website, tudorsdynasty.com, and click on the shop to see some of the new merchandise that I have available. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.
The Tudors Dynasty Podcast